So 2022 is about to be over, or already over, I'm not really sure when this video is coming out, and I saw quite a few movies throughout this year. So much so that unfortunately I couldn't dedicate a specific video to all the films that deserved it, or even to the ones that didn't. So I figured what better to do than to recap everything that I saw that was released this year, or at the very least everything that I could remember. And don't worry, this list is in no particular order, but I will give my best and worst films of the year respectively at the end, so stay tuned for that. And if you enjoy the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and let me know your favorite and least favorite movies of the year in the comments down below. And now with all that being said, let's start talking some movies. So I saw the first trailer for Bullet Train early on in the year, and I have to say I was pretty pleasantly surprised. Then I saw it again, and again, and again, and again. Like seriously, any place that you could see an advertisement was advertising this movie. And I saw that goddamn trailer so many times that by the time the actual movie came out, I was already over it and decided that I would not be partaking in this one. But then my girlfriend wanted to see it, so I ended up getting dragged along anyways. And I have to say I was pretty pleasantly surprised. For what it lacks in the action category, it more than makes up for it with its fun characters and dialogue. And I'd say that Bullet Train is worth watching just based on those two merits alone. Unfortunately, Violent Night was pretty bad. I was honestly hyped up for this movie just based on the concept alone, and I have to be completely honest here, I was definitely let down. The movie just doesn't do nearly enough with its premise, and sadly even David Harbour's great portrayal of a worn down and beaten Santa Claus just couldn't do enough for me personally to save Violent Night. So The Menu was damn near my favorite movie of the entire year. I went into that theater expecting a fairly serious thriller, but walked out having sat through a genuinely hilarious black comedy. Great performances all around, an actually good showing from John Leguizamo, Violent Night, and some of the funniest and darkest shit that I've seen in a narrative-driven film in a while easily put The Menu at just about my top spot, but not quite all the way there. X was pretty solid. A fairly standard period piece slasher, sure, but it does exactly what it's supposed to. There were a few moments where I felt like they kind of shied away from some of the kills, which was a little disappointing, but this is still surprisingly character driven, and easily one of the best slasher movies in a long while. It's really no secret that I don't like the first Black Panther movie at all, so I went into Wakanda Forever optimistically to say the least, and I have to say I left pretty pleasantly surprised. It's definitely not perfect, far from it in fact, and there are a lot of issues, but the good for sure outweighs the bad here, and somehow this ended up being the best Marvel movie of the year, which I mean admittedly isn't saying much, but still you get the point. Pinocchio, one of the many that came out this year. And I mean, this movie's just great. What were you expecting? You can tell that Guillermo del Toro was super passionate about this story, and you can feel that passion in nearly every aspect here. I can't stress it enough, this is genuinely one of the best animated movies that I've seen in a long time. So I'm not really sure why I added this one to the list, but Pinocchio came out halfway through me watching Trolls, so I mean of course I ditched it and I really don't plan on going back. But from what I did see, cool troll stuff, bad everything else. You know exactly what you're getting into with Black Adam, there are literally no surprises with this one. Go watch literally any other review of this thing and I promise you I have most likely the exact same opinion as whoever else is reviewing it. The movie's just fucking, I don't know, it's Black Adam, man, what the hell do you want me to say? On the complete other side of the DC spectrum, The Batman was one of my favorite superhero movies I've ever seen when I first had the opportunity to watch it. But as I sat with the movie, I began to realize that I didn't really have any desire to go back and rewatch it. And that's not me saying that it's bad, because it's most definitely not, but I think that the slower pace and more mystery-driven storyline just kind of lead to the film not being as rewatchable as I would have hoped. Still the best superhero movie of the year though, don't get me wrong. It's all the twists and turns that make Barbarian such a fun watch for me, with its overall atmosphere and presentation making the film feel almost like a heartfelt homage to 80s and 90s horror films of the same nature, with the only thing keeping Barbarian down for me being its ending, where I feel like the movie just kinda gets over-explained and exposition heavy when I really feel like there was no reason for it. I didn't think too highly of Nope upon my first viewing, but even to this day I find myself thinking about the hidden themes and imagery in this movie, and yeah, nah, this is for sure worth the hype. The Northman is so fucking good that it's not even funny. My only real regret with this movie is that I didn't see it in theaters, and I kinda brushed it off at first because I wasn't the biggest fan of The Lighthouse, Robert Eggers' previous movie. But no, this is again one of my favorite movies of the year, and there's no reason that every goddamn person in the Skarsgård family should be this goddamn good at acting. Pearl was better than X, which I wasn't really expecting at all, and I think that a lot of that comes from the more untraditional plot and even more so from Mia Goth's incredible performance. I doubt she's going to be in talks for the Oscar this year because, I mean, let's be honest here, the Oscars are run by idiots, but she's hands down my top pick for Best Actress just based on this movie alone. Oh, finally, another bad one. I was starting to give this year too much credit. Now, I didn't hate Thor: Love and Thunder as much as some people did at least. And honestly, I've spent so much time with these characters at this point that I don't know if I'd be able to truly hate a Thor movie. But this was definitely a disappointment. Now, admittedly, it's a disappointment that I feel like I would have absolutely loved as a kid. But, I mean, now as a grown man, I just can't help but think about how good Love and Thunder could have been. Especially with all the amazing things that seem like it had going for it. So Weird Al gets a movie and it's not the best film of the year? Yeah, I wasn't that big of a fan of this one, and that's coming from a huge Weird Al Yankovic fan. There were definitely some funny moments and a few nice Easter eggs to Weird Al's life, but I just think I would have rather seen an actual Weird Al biopic, as opposed to a parody on musical biopics that just uses Weird Al as its vessel. Night at the Museum... The Dark Knight Rises? Alright, I have genuinely no clue what this movie's actually called, and I literally only put this on here because I think that I might be the only human being on the planet who has heard of this movie's existence. And to be honest, I watched literally less than 60 seconds of this lazy, horribly animated abomination before immediately turning it off, so, I mean, take from that what you will. Yeah, Multiverse of Madness was easily the worst superhero movie of the year in my opinion. That I saw at least, I'm sure Morbius was a lot worse. But besides the cool stylized direction and pretty welcome horror tone, I thought that this was just a fucking mess all around. There's a lot of really specific things that I could talk shit about this movie for, but I mean, we'd just be here all day, so Doctor Strange 2 gets a from me. Now don't crucify me, but I thought Prey was just alright. I did not understand all the hype this movie was getting, but overall I do still think that it was a decent flick. Great concept and Predator design, but plot holes and some of the worst acting that I've ever seen in my entire life keep Prey from reaching the same heights as it did for so many other people. Bad Guys perfectly encapsulates everything that DreamWorks excels at, as well as everything that ruins a lot of their films. You know, I think I'd honestly like this movie a lot less if the animation itself just wasn't so goddamn nice to look at. Like, Bad Guys has more style and life in one frame of animation than pretty much anything else that DreamWorks has released in the last decade. It just sucks that the movie decides to use that on a pretty overused concept and a few dozen too many fart jokes. I feel like this new Hellraiser film was way better than people actually gave it credit for. I thought the movie added a few welcome additions to the overall Hellraiser lore and did pretty much exactly what I was hoping it would be as a reboot to the franchise. It really sucks that it didn't get as much buzz as some of the other horror movies that were released this year. I don't know, bro, these Sonic movies are way better than they have any right to be, cause this was for sure one of my favorites. Definitely not perfect by any means, but they're so simple and wholesome, and they have Jim Carrey's best performance in years, and pretty entertaining action, and human characters that I don't completely hate, and this weird wedding scene that makes no sense and is so random and stupid that I honestly like the movie more because of it, and yeah, hopefully they keep making these. DC's League of Super Pets, on the other hand, is just about the definition of okay. I'm sure the young children loved it, and obviously I know I'm not the target audience for a movie like this, but I was really just hoping for more out of this one, on pretty much all fronts. So for anyone who's been paying attention to my channel, you might recall a video I made on Lightyear right before it came out, where I made a prediction on a scene that happened in the movie, and if my prediction turned out to not happen, then I'd have to review the film while eating the world's hottest pepper. Now, the scene did not happen. And originally, I was going to just delete the video and act like it never happened because I think I had 9 subs at the time that the video was posted, but I decided I'd be honest and I will make the pepper video, and since it's taken so long, I'll be a man of my word, and on top of that, I'll review the entire Toy Story franchise while consuming the world's hottest pepper. I'm not doing it until I have at least like 10,000 subs though, this shit is not gonna be wasted. So subscribe for that, 2023 is gonna be a hell of a year. Now this is gonna be pretty unpopular, but I adore this movie. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre film is my favorite horror film of all time, and I'm of the strong belief that it's one of the best horror franchises of all time as well. And this new reboot / loose continuation movie that got dumped onto Netflix strengthens that so much. Now you're probably surprised since this movie was pretty much universally hated, and I mean it's really bad. Like, extremely bad. But I just had so much fun watching this, I can't lie. The super over-the-top kills and cliche, cringe-inducing lines suit this film so well. Now, would I have wanted a more faithful and serious reboot of the Texas Chainsaw IP? Of course. But for what it's worth, I had a lot of fun with this installment of the franchise. It just goes on to prove that even at its absolute dumbest, the Texas Chainsaw series can still be a lot of fun. I made a video on Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers a while back, and my thoughts really haven't changed. I think it's a lot better than I thought it was gonna be, and I'm hoping that it gets turned into a franchise, because this world has just so much potential. But go watch my old video on it if you want to hear me talk about it a little more. This video is getting long enough as it is. So I'm not the biggest Bob's Burgers fan in the world. I mean, I've seen the occasional episode here and there, but I can't say that it's my go-to when it comes to animated TV. But I thought this movie was pretty solid. If you're a bigger fan of the show than I am, I'm sure that you got a lot more out of it than I did. But for what it's worth, yeah, a pretty good time. It was nice to see a 2D animated movie in the theaters. Peacemaker is, I think, my favorite show of all time. Now let me explain a little bit. I do not watch TV, as you'll soon find out from this segment. Anytime a show is narrative driven and you can't just tune in whenever you like, I'm turned away. Because I can almost never keep up with a series, and maybe I'm just, I don't know, mentally deficient, but Peacemaker was an entirely different experience for me. Every fucking episode of this shit kept me glued to the screen and left in anticipation for the next episode, once it ended, which literally never happens with me. I'm praying that it gets a season 2, but with all this weird DC stuff going on, who knows if that'll happen. Nonetheless, I highly recommend Peacemaker for anyone who was left in the same TV-less boat as I was. Werewolf by Night and the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Yes please, Marvel, more of this. These are both incredibly entertaining and unique holiday specials, especially coming from a studio as formulaic as Marvel. And I can tell you right now, as someone who hates just about every Disney Plus Marvel show, this definitely seems like the right move and exactly what the MCU should continue to do with their streaming originals. It's been a long time coming, but we finally made it. The worst movie of 2022. You know, disappointing is a word that I use a lot throughout this video, but I think that when it comes to pure disappointment, nothing was worse than Jurassic World Dominion. I have an entire video shitting on this movie on my channel, so I'm gonna try and be quick here. But Dominion had one of the biggest cases of wasted potential that I've pretty much ever experienced. Jurassic Park is my favorite movie of all time. And because of that, I hold a lot of love for it and all of its sequels, and I'd even go as far as to say that they're all decent to good in my obviously biased opinion. Besides Jurassic World Dominion, that is. Other than its beautiful practical and digital effects on its dinosaurs and a welcome reunion with the original film's main trio, Dominion is just a bloated and unfocused mess that does absolutely nothing to advance the world of Jurassic Park. It's just a huge waste of everyone's time with some of the worst screenwriting decisions that have ever been made. Again, I have a video where I go more into detail if you're curious, so go check that out. One thing that was good about Dominion is that it made so much goddamn money at the theaters, because hopefully this means that the Jurassic franchise isn't gonna go out with this absolute wet fart of a movie. I can't even explain how much it sucks having a Jurassic movie as my worst of the year, but here we are, I guess. But that's enough of that. Let's get into something that's actually nice to talk about. The best movie of the year. As a kid, there were a few properties that I held more closely to my heart than Jackass. I was never actually allowed to even watch it in my house, but I mean, you're crazy if you think that was gonna stop me. From the series to the movies, I ate that shit up. So you can imagine my surprise when a fourth film in the series was announced for this year. Cause you see, as much as I love Jackass, I was never actually able to experience the franchise as it was intended. All the episodes I saw were reruns, and I never was able to see the movies in theaters because of my age. So of course, opening day I was first in line to try and experience everything that Jackass Forever had to offer. And as you can probably tell from it being my top spot of the year, I was not let down. Now, people are probably going to be mad that this was my favorite movie because it's not some highbrow piece of art, and I honestly don't even really know if this counts as an actual film. But I mean, first of all, go fuck yourself, this is my video. And second, I think movies are made to entertain in whatever way possible. And really, what's more entertaining than a man getting his nuts bitten off by a grizzly bear? I've genuinely never had a more fun theater experience than the 3 times that I went to see Jackass Forever in theaters. Yeah, you heard me right, 3 times, which I promise I have never done for any other movie ever. It's kind of hard to talk about because I mean the entire film is just a collection of pranks and people seeing who can kill themselves in the funniest way possible. But I promise you there wasn't a single second that went by where I wasn't laughing my ass off like an idiot. Every segment of the movie is funnier than the last, and I can quote verbatim pretty much every single thing that these guys say. Now, before the movie came out, they were pretty heavily marketing the new cast members that would be added to this installment, and coupled with the unfortunate loss of a couple other core members, I was a little worried that the chemistry between the guys might be a little off. Which, considering the camaraderie between the crew is pretty much what makes the whole franchise so special, I went in fearing the worst. But thankfully, within the first few seconds, my worries were completely put to rest. Everyone here does a fantastic job. I don't know, I could honestly talk about this for hours, but at the end of the day, I said all I needed to say. If Jackass isn't your thing, I completely understand. It is not for everybody. But if you are a fan, or you think you would be a fan, what the fuck are you doing? You got 4 movies to catch up on. And I'm telling you, after just my first time watching Jackass Forever, I knew that this was most likely going to be my top spot of the year. I just cannot describe how important and special it was to finally experience an installment of one of my favorite film franchises of all time on the big screen. It was pretty much the exact opposite of what happened when I watched Jurassic World Dominion. And I'll be lucky if I ever get an experience like that again.